Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
I never thought today would happen. I never thought there would be a time where professional sports and college sports are just done with. Done. They're just on hold. They're not going to be being played. Now, some of it is going to legitimately be done for the season, and others are just suspended at this very time. This is insane. Historic. You will probably never experience anything like this again in terms of these big businesses just stopping. And you got to think about the TV deal, CBS with March Madness. There is so much involved to pull the trigger and to stop all of these games from occurring. This is a monster historic moment that realistically, as I stated, you might not ever see again. And it's so hard to really process. It's so hard to understand. I'm still in that shock mode where I'm speechless. I went to the Sixers game against the Detroit Pistons, and you could feel the energy in the building. I would say it was probably about 80 to 85% full. So there were definitely people in the arena. They went to the game to watch, and they were not scared away by the coronavirus. But with those 80 to 85% of people that filled up the building, it was weird, I guess is the best way to describe it. You can sense awkwardness. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but there was obviously a vibe that was just different inside the Wells Fargo Center, and I think it was because of everyone so uncertain on what's actually going down, and you're seeing news on Twitter while the game is happening that this is getting canceled, and that's being discussed, and who knows what's going on here in OKC. It's postponed, and nobody knew during the game what was going on in OKC. Then you hear Rudy Gobert possibly has coronavirus, but nothing was confirmed at that time. I can't believe that this is real life. I came home from that game. I sat on the couch in my full clothes. I didn't change yet. I plopped down, and I couldn't move for hours. I couldn't stop flipping around from all the TV coverage, ESPN, NBA TV. I couldn't stop listening to what was going on because I was so numb. I was numb to what's actually happening, and I still am. It's hard for me to even wrap my head around the fact that there's so much money involved. So much money that you as an individual who just works their normal life, you work that 9 to 5, or you're a college student, and you just go through everyday life as a normal person in society. We can't even think about how much money is being lost right now. It's making everyone involved, like legitimately involved, cringe and really get upset because we are talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars. With that being said, what's way more important? And that's this. The whole problem with the coronavirus. You can't wait for something to go wrong, like big time wrong, and then act on it. Now, when it comes to the NBA, I think they were just a hair late. They pulled the trigger when Rudy Gobert was tested and he was positive. They should have probably done it 2 days earlier, 3 days earlier, instead of allowing these people to go to events. For example, the Sixers allowing fans to go to the Sixers-Pistons game when they knew that realistically on Saturday when they played their next game, there wasn't going to be any fans. Like, why are you squeezing in that game if you knew down the road real quick that it wasn't going to be open to the public or maybe the game was going to be suspended? There's no reason to even factor that in and allow the Sixers to put fans in the building. The NBA should have came down and said, all right, listen, we know something serious is happening. Let's put it to a stop early. Let's not worry about it. Let's just postpone things. Let's figure everything out and we'll move on. But then there's a ton of people that are claiming everyone's overreacting. This is such a joke. This is embarrassing. This is just the flu. And I mean, technically it is a sickness like the flu, but the big time difference is there's no fix for this and it's growing at a rapid pace. It is not exactly the same as a flu. This is the big time issue. So you have all these people claiming, well, this is soft. This is dumb. You're not allowing fans in. You have to stop it before it actually happens. So I think the NBA was just a hair late. I do believe that Adam Silver was good in this situation, but he could have been better. Now, without him doing that, I think games would still be going on. The NHL wouldn't have pulled the trigger. NCAA, what a sick joke that is with the tourney. You had to have Duke and Kansas withdraw themselves before they even made the decision to cancel it as a whole. They started to cancel the conference tournaments. You had the Big East tip off, and then they decided that they weren't going to no longer continue. I mean, come on. The NCAA with a pathetic performance throughout this whole entire situation. So I give credit to Adam Silver for being the guy to start this because he was. But once you have a guy in the league, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? You can't allow him to go out there and play against other opponents who are banging in the post, low block on this guy, or touching the basketball, and then somebody else is touching the ball, and then the referee's touching the ball, and then the ball goes into the first row of fans, and that fan's giving the ball back to the ref, and then that person holds the drink for the person next to them. It's a huge snowball effect. So once someone in the league is confirmed to have it, well, you have no other choice. You can't just say, all right, Rudy Gobert, and then we'll test all the Jazz players. You guys just are out for a while and go quarantine yourself for a couple weeks while the rest of the league competes. And if your team has to play a game, what do? Do you automatically forfeit that game? It's just, you have no other option other than shutting it down. And once the other sports start shutting it down, well, it's a big snowball effect there as well, and you have your hands tied behind your back. This is so unique and such a weird spot to be in. No one can plan for this. You got to react on your toes. You got to think on your toes. And these are tough business decisions. But when you are talking about something to this level where people are dying, they're catching this virus, and there seems to be no stop to it at the moment, you can't put anyone in danger. You can't put the players in danger. You can't put the fans in danger. How about the media team, the media coverage, the trainers, everyone involved? You can't have gatherings of 20,000 people. You can't play the game without fans either. I'm sorry, that will not work at this point. So now you have no NBA, you got no NHL, the MLS, the XFL, Major League Baseball is getting pushed back, and we are going to be without sports for a significant amount of time. I think the minimum right now for the NBA is 30 days, and I think they're the ones leading the pack. So whatever the NBA does, it's going to be followed. Although I do think the NHL and Gary Bettman's trying to push their way faster to return faster than the NBA does. But the difference is there are confirmed cases in the NBA right now. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and now some other teams are getting tested. There is somewhat of a positive with the whole Jazz situation. So everyone involved in the Jazz, for the most part, not every single person, but a really good amount of people got tested. And with the Jazz, 2 people were confirmed, and that was Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. So there were a bunch of individuals, teammates, staff members, coaches, who were involved with the Jazz every single day for a long period of time, and they do not have it. So I guess that's a good sign in terms of how it spreads, and, think about how much time they've spent together as a unit, as a group of people, and only one person legitimately caught it from Rudy Gobert. Now, by now, I'm sure everybody saw what Rudy Gobert did to the media members when he was sitting at the podium, and he got up and pretended that, what is really going on here? This is such a joke, and then he started touching all of their stuff. He apologized for it, and there are people out there claiming he's a bad person and all of that. And no, he's not a bad person. Did he take it lightly? Yes. Did he? I think the best thing I heard, it might have been Stephen A. Smith. As I said, I don't watch national media coverage a lot, but when it comes to something like this, clearly I'm going to tune in. I forget if it was Stephen A. Smith or another personality on ESPN, but it was just an irresponsible move by Rudy Gobert. It's not that he's a bad person. His intent was, let me get everybody sick. I can't wait to make everybody sick. He just made a poor decision, and he didn't believe that it was that serious, so he decided to try and be funny, and look what happened. He put out a post about it. I'm not going to judge him and claim that he is some brutal individual. He just made a really bad decision that wasn't smart at all. Now, let's also be clear. It's not to the point where the world is going to end. All of human mankind, they're just going to drop. No, but it is a concern. This is something where there are people who are working at it every single day, 24 hours a day, to find a way to fix this, get medication, get something that will slow down the rate. But at this point, we don't know what that is, and there are people who are going to town nonstop 24/7 until they are capable of doing it. And there will be a time where this does slow down. It's just, how do you maintain it until then? It started with just a certain amount of cases, and then within 3, 4, 5 days, boom, it exploded to this elite number. And the problem also is the test kits. There's not that many, and there's a lot of people out there. So when it comes to how many reported cases there are of coronavirus, well, that's kind of flawed, because there's probably way more with people that don't know. And speaking of people who don't know, the Jazz players, Rudy Gobert was legitimately going to play that game if he tested negative. He felt fine. He felt good. He was ready to go. He was ready to play. He was ready to compete. And Donovan Mitchell, same thing. Like, you just don't have the symptoms for weeks, or your body fights them off. You also hear Tom Hanks has it. He's filming a movie down in Australia. Just because you have it, keep in mind that that doesn't mean you pass away. It is very possible, and the numbers prove that, if you are in the right spot in your life when it comes to health and age, you have a good chance of fighting it off, no doubt. But that doesn't mean, well, if you have a good chance to fight it off, well, why not throw 20,000 people into a stadium and have people play basketball? You can't. As a commissioner, your job is to make sure that you put your players and everyone involved in a great situation. Now, the unfortunate part of this is people are losing jobs, people are losing money, and I'm not talking about the millionaires that play the game, but there are plenty of people, for example, who work in the Wells Fargo Center, and that's their job, and that's how they pay their rent, and they could be living paycheck to paycheck, or, they just need money in general, and that is their income. This is definitely affecting a ton of people outside of just fans of the sport and the players and everyone else. You have people who work every day based off of sports games and what's going down at the arenas. Now, Mark Cuban came out and stated he's going to find a way to help support those, and Kevin Love also did that, and the Cavaliers organization is doing that, and then I'm sure there's going to be plenty other organizations that do the same thing. It's just a very unfortunate time, but there's no alternative. You got to find the medium, right? You're right, you can't be too soft and just instantly pull the trigger, but I'm sorry, you can't wait for a monster issue to happen and 50 players have it and then say, okay, you know what, I think it's time. And I feel like that's the way the NCAA was going to go. I guess there's no reason to plug in my SeatGeek promo code, huh? No one's going to games anytime soon. Huh. Unbelievable. The conversation about, well, look at these kids that are playing college sports. There could be seniors. There could be those little schools that finally won their conference tournament. They punched a ticket to the tournament, to March Madness. This is the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They want to play. That's great that you want to play, and it's very unfortunate. I actually feel for them. Imagine being a senior in a little school. I'm not talking about the Kansas, the Dukes, and the Michigan States, and all those teams, Virginia. And even though it's touching for those seniors, too, if that's their last basketball game, it's very unfortunate. But think about those really little schools that have to win the most random conferences in the world to finally get a chance to play on the big stage. And now you can't because it's canceled. I do feel really bad about that. But sometimes life is very unfair. And this is one of those moments. It's just one of those moments. I don't want this to happen to all these players. I don't want this to happen ever. I'm a diehard sports fan. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to binge watch some stuff with my girlfriend. I'm going to be playing more video games. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Every day I wake up, I do my thing. I talk sports, and then I can't wait till 7 o'clock to watch games, and then I'll look at the 10 o'clock schedule to see what NBA games on West Coast, what NHL game is on during the West Coast games. I look for any game to watch when I get home. That's all I think about. Wow, what am I going to watch tonight? What type of podcast am I going to make tonight? It's what it is. It's a big cycle of, all right, what games am I going to watch? What games am I going to talk about? And now for a really decent amount of time, that's not going to be the case. So it is affecting my life as well. I mean, this is my job. This is what I do. Not just here at 97.3 ESPN as well. Sports is my job. I mean, it affects my life too. So it's going to have to be an adjustment. But time will move on. This is so historic. We're going to be talking about this in 50 years. We're going to be telling our grandkids about this. There was a year where things just got canceled. Things didn't happen. No way, Grandpa Broads, no way. It happened. Go look at the record books. Coronavirus, it was a thing. I mean, it's going to be a historic moment that we are experiencing right now. Now, I don't know when it comes to the NBA, these things. Where I'm going to go with that is, it's not legitimately over for the rest of the season. We don't know where it's going to take us. It's possible that you might see an NBA Finals run in July or in August. And there was already conversation of maybe having the season pushed back to start in, say, December because it competes with the NFL during October and whatnot. What do fans always say in the NBA? Well, the regular season doesn't start until after Christmas because no one cares about October, November because, football's still going on. It's so early in an 82-game season. It was always a conversation that maybe they push it back until that December, start it then, and then have the finals run through summer because the only thing on is baseball. Well, maybe this allows for that to actually happen and maybe give it a shot and see how it works. If you have the NBA finals in July, if things do get pushed back, well, then you start the next season later and you see what happens. Now, there's so much involved. It's hard to just say, well, hey, why not try it? Because some buildings, like the Wells Fargo Center, is for the Flyers, it's for the Sixers, it's for concerts. Now you got to worry about how all that is going to play out. You got the buildings needing to host other events. This is going to get tricky. It's going to get ugly. It's going to be a really hard process for everyone involved at the top levels to figure out. It's going to get very intense. But you had to make this move. You needed to do this. You have no other option. It had to be done. This could be on the very precautionary side, being very cautious of what's going on. And if that is the case, okay, isn't that better than waiting for an entire team to have it? Waiting for 10 teams to have it? Waiting for fans in the stands to have it? And then giving it to another fan, who gives it to another fan, who gives it to another fan, who gives it to another fan. And I'm sure that's already started. That process already started. To be honest with you, I mean, that's probably already in its circle. It's already kind of circling around, which is unbelievable to think about. Because think about Rudy Gobert. So the Jazz played the Pistons. The Pistons played the Sixers. Now, does anyone on the Sixers have it? We joke around about Joel Embiid's immune system all the time. Would it shock you if that was the case, if Joel Embiid had it? It's a scary situation, and I want to make sure that everyone stays safe, everyone is put in the best position to be safe. I'm sure by now to wash your hands, to just make sure you are paying attention to your body. If you feel sick, just really pay attention to what's going on with your body and putting yourself in the best position to stay safe. Now, I don't know if it's to the point where you don't live your life. You got to do certain things. You got to go to work. You got to pay your bills. I mean, you got to live your life, but you got to be cautious at the same time. You got to find the right line. I'm not going to lie. When I went to that Sixers game, in the back of my mind while I'm sitting there, I was thinking about it. And as I stated, you can feel that almost everybody else was thinking about it too. It was such a weird vibe in that building. And now because there were 15, 20%, like I said, it wasn't 100% full. The capacity wasn't completely bonkers. So there was probably 15, 20% of the stands not filled. You could hear that when Joel Embiid ran out for the first time. When Embiid hit a monster bucket and he does his thing where Wicked comes on, future song Wicked, and he starts giving this to the crowd. And it got loud, but it wasn't the same as normal. And how about this? There's really not even much to talk about that Sixers game. I had so many ideas that I really wanted to discuss. I wanted to discuss the Sixers-Pistons game because you had the two big men doing their thing. Al Horford and Joel Embiid both had a very dominant game, albeit against a bad squad, but they were able to play. Joel Embiid's first game back, that's awesome. I was pumped to see it. But it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, it's really not even a conversation that you can have. But I wanted last night to have that conversation. I was going to wake up the next day and talk about Jimmy Butler and J.J. Redick because that podcast was very interesting, and I still have some thoughts that I want to share on that. Maybe as the weeks go by and the whole coronavirus conversation, it's always going to be there until it is over and sports are back and the numbers start to go down and all of it. But there's going to be a time where, say, 3 weeks from now, it's not as flashy as it is at this very moment. So maybe I will bring up that J.J. Redick, Jimmy Butler podcast because I do find it very interesting. It's hilarious to me that I'm getting tweets, DMs, voice calls. Bro, is this the perfect time to fire Brett Brown? Let's fire Brett so when the season starts, we're going to be ready to rock and roll. First off, really? I mean, like, for that to even be on your mind right now is crazy. Like, sports are being postponed, canceled. This doesn't happen. This is iconic. This is legitimately an iconic moment. And we have fans worried about if Brett Brown should be fired so when they come back, they're ready to make a run. And your answer is no, because they can't practice. They can't be together. They're being quarantined. Like, what does firing the coach do for? This doesn't buy any time. Also, Ben Simmons and his injury update. That was a big story. He spoke to us, the media, yesterday around 6:25 before the game, and he was answering questions about his back and what type of shots he got and when he was looking to return and how good he feels. I mean, none of that stuff matters right now because who the hell knows when the next basketball game is even going to be played. I had so much good Sixers content ready to rock and roll, and boom, I get hit with the bomb. I'd leave the Wells Fargo Center, and I turn on sports radio, and all I hear is breaking news. Literally instantly, as I turn my car on, I turn on the radio, and it's breaking news. The NBA season is postponed. Or suspended was the word they used. What? I just left the Wells Fargo Center. I literally just left an NBA game. I just got quotes from Brett Brown. I just started out in Brand, you know? Now, obviously I knew because of them talking. But still, it's just crazy. It's just flat out crazy, and it's hard to even process, and I'm still in that shock mode. For me to be speechless, it takes a lot. It takes a lot for me to be legitimately speechless, and I had to sit on this. I find out last night I couldn't talk about it, and I still can. This is still hard to even fathom. I'm just rambling about how I feel about all this, but it's still hard for me to understand. It hasn't fully digested yet. It's like when you eat dinner and I'm still bloated at the table. You're still bloated at the table. You're just sitting there like, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable. What is even happening? You're not digested yet. Well, that's where I'm at right now. Wow. So, when it comes to sports talk with bros, because that's the name of this, there's going to be plenty of content. Obviously, less content to talk about in terms of sports, but I will still find ways to make this happen, whether it's, top 10 specific moments, or whether it's, maybe talking about certain Philly, Sixer. I mean, listen, I don't know right now, this very second, what is exactly going to happen throughout this next month plus, 2 months without legitimate sports and sporting events. I don't know what exactly I will be discussing, but I do know that we will not be going anywhere. Sports Talk with Bros will still be happening. There will still be plenty of conversation. There will be content provided, and it's just going to be different. We're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to find ways, but we will find ways because, listen, talking sports is a passion of mine, and it's not going anywhere, whether there's games or not. We will find ways to talk about sports, and maybe, just maybe, it will be pleasant because you're going to hear about, when's he coming back? What's happening now? What's going on with this league, that league, MLS, NHL? When are they coming back? What's the NBA going to do? Instead of the whole corona getting thrown down your throat in 2 weeks from now, which I'm sure it still will be, maybe it'll be nice to just take a step back and listen to sports conversations that aren't so what's happening right now. More personal. Sports moments that I've experienced. My favorite moments from the 2000s. My favorite moments from the Eagles Super Bowl run. Whatever the case may be. Instead of corona. Maybe it gives you that sports feel that we look for sports for. We go to sports because it's an escape, right? It's an escape of reality. Well, now reality is going into the sports world. And that's the issue right now for us sports fans. We use it to get away from everything. You're stressed about school. You're stressed about work. You're stressed about this. You're really upset about that. But the Sixers play at 7. Well, what do? From 6:30, the pregame show, till 9:30, 10 o'clock when the game's over and you listen to the postgame show, you're dialed into the game. You're focused there. It takes your brain off of it, and it gives you it releases some stress. Well, maybe that's what we'll do here on Sports Talk with Broads. As the weeks go by of no sports and no games, we'll look back. Instead of being stressed about no games going on, we'll find a way to get that escape going again. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you next time.